Om Sairam. Salam kepada seluruh penonton media saya Indonesia. Bersama saya, Ade Cynthia, membawa acara Anda dalam program kami Mencari Kebahagiaan Sejati. Brother and Sisters, episode kali ini adalah lanjutan dari episode minggu lalu. Yang pastinya, Anda semua masih ingat percakapan antara dua orang anggota Sri Satya Sai yang dahulunya bernama Radio Sai, yang kaya akan pengetahuan namun rendah hati. Beliau adalah Brother Arafin Balasubramanya dan Brother Premana. Dalam episode ini, mereka akan melanjutkan pembahasan mengenai dapatkah mengubah takdir. Kali ini, obrolan akan menyoroti topik menarik lainnya dan berbagi pengalaman yang lebih mengharukan. Tanpa menunggu waktu lagi, marilah kita saksikan Mencari Kebahagiaan Sejati.
So from Kartavyam Yoga Muchyate, which is duty is yoga, we move on to Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam, wherein perfection in that duty becomes yoga. So that is what we found as the problem in the first 4 cases that we saw, wherein if we have this selfishness and self-interest, if it's only self-centered, we are unable to do it. We are unable to do it to perfection. Now let's take a few more cases. For example, let's take a businessman who is very committed, very sincere in work, very professional, very passionate and puts in all efforts. But then, in spite of all that, the business goes for a loss. And when the business goes for a loss, the businessman is unable to bear it and he commits suicide. Such cases we hear so frequently in the news. It happens.
Or take the example of a student. The student who is, it doesn't have to be monitored. The student, let's say it's a girl who is very committed, who knows how she has to, she's taking the GRE or TOEFL. I'm sure the Indian audience will be able to relate to that. A competitive exam, which is very, very difficult to clear. So she has worked very hard over many, many months. She's put all the effort that a student has to do. As Swami would say, you have to write and practice, you have to revise early in the morning. Let's say that all those do's and don'ts of a student life this girl has followed. At the end of it, she doesn't clear that competitive exam and she's heartbroken. Now she's even slipping into depression, contemplating some wrong measures. These are again cases that we often see.
Or for instance, a scientist who has worked all his life to achieve something, comes up with a wonderful discovery, wonderful invention. He is so sure that he is going to win an award or possibly the Nobel Prize, and then he sees that somebody has plagiarized, somebody has copied, somebody has taken off his work, and that Nobel Prize now goes to a colleague. Or even if somebody has not stolen the work, it's just that we see that happening. You feel you are the deserving one, but somebody else gets the prize. And after that, the interest and passion in doing that work itself is gone. You don't feel like being a scientist anymore because you know that you have done everything right, and like we discussed last week, bad is happening to good people and good is happening to bad people. So these are some more cases that were presented to us in our awareness class, and once again, as always, the teachers asked us to come up with what do you think is the problem or mistake over here.
Right, and most of the students gave these as their points. One was the person has not put in enough effort, because you never know how much effort is enough, right? You're preparing for an exam, you're doing an invention, you never know what is the requisite amount of effort. No balance of mind. The person does not have an emotional quotient, as they say. The IQ is very high, but EQ is very low. That's a possibility. Person is very impatient, does not have the balanced weight, very short-sighted. There might be something, you clear one exam, you don't clear another exam. It could be that could be the case. Or sometimes, as my science teacher once told me, I got all my experiments having negative results. And I said, sir, all my experiments are a failure. The teacher told me, no, you have found different ways of how it does not work. Right? That's short-sightedness. Actually, in science, it's important to find out ways that don't work also.
In fact, they say that Edison, when he saw his whole lab burn down, I don't know if it's Edison or Newton, when the whole lab burned down, he just said that I'm grateful that all my mistakes are burnt and I can start afresh.
Right. And the other thing was given was lack of confidence, lack of willpower. But if you really observe or study these cases, what is actually the problem is that the approach was so much centered on the results. So much of effort has gone in, so much of sincerity is there, but you have placed all your happiness on one particular outcome, one particular result. And whenever you have a result-oriented approach, it will come with its set of problems. And if you ask me, the most critical problem is much of the results don't completely depend on you. For any outcome, there are so many other possibilities, so many other things that are beyond your control. Nothing can be done by you. The best example Swami would give is that of a farmer. He can do everything perfectly in his control, but if it doesn't rain, you cannot blame him for that. So in most of our activities, the result is always dependent on things that are little more than what is in our control. So the moment you are going to put it on something outside you, you are actually signing up for disappointment.
And the best way to ensure that you don't get disappointed is let it depend on things that is in your control.
Exactly. And the other problem is, whenever the focus is on the results, there is always a chance of slipping into wrong karma. The example of the scientist that you gave, right? He has tried so hard, somebody has sabotaged his work, then he gets vengeful. Let me also do this. Because one of the points that we are talking of is, even as we are dispensing our karma, how do you respond to that? So you don't want to do agami karma, which is going to add to your sanchita karma, that is dangerous, right? So suppose I want to become a doctor, I am studying hard for that. If it is not written in my prarabdha to become a doctor, then if my approach is totally result oriented, then I will get totally devastated and I will slip into action that is going to take me into more trouble. So this is the problem with the result oriented kind of karma that you perform.
So therefore I think we should become process oriented, wherein we enjoy just doing the karma. I remember on one occasion Swami had come out and he was talking to the students, and which would often happen, it was after the exams when the results had been declared, and Swami was asking all the students how many marks they had got, what was their marks. When he asked one student who said that he had got 92%, Swami told him, you should study harder, you should work harder. Not good. So we were all like surprised, 92% is pretty good by our standards. Then we thought, oh okay, Swami likes perfection, so he is not happy with 92%. But then Swami picked up one student whom, as we saw itself, we realized, oh my God, Swami, wrong student to pick, because this was a weak student in the class. Swami asked him, how much you got? Now, this student did not want to divulge, because 92 itself is like work hard, Swami has told. So he said, Swami, this is the solution. What? Huh? Swami asked. He didn't want it to be clear. He said, Swami, this is how much? Then he said, Swami, 62 or 63, something like that. Swami said, very good, working very hard, very happy. And we were all very shocked. What is Swami saying? Swami, 92 is higher than 62. But that is when, later we realized that Swami doesn't see the result. Swami sees the effort, because effort is what is in our control. And possibly this weak student who used to fail many times, getting 62% must have meant tremendous effort. And possibly that was a brilliant student who can easily get 95%, but because of lack of effort, got 92%. So God's focus is always on actions and efforts, not results. Why should we be focusing so much on the result then? As you said, result is not in our hands, and if we focus on the result and it comes differently, we are disappointed. But if we focus on our efforts, that's what I used to always feel. When it comes to speaking, where are we compared to the great orators who have spoken in Bhagwan's presence? But I used to feel, Swami, if I can put my 100% in this, then in the result I may not be equal to an orator, but in effort I will be equal and Swami will be happy. Professor Kasturi in his book Loving God records a very beautiful episode. He writes how after the 1950 Prashanti Nilayam inauguration, early days, Swami had got some coconut trees planted around the mandir. And every day it was the task for the devotees to water. There was no concept of Sevadal and volunteer, nothing. So the devotees were everything and they would water this. And how it would happen is about 100 yards away there was an open well with steps into it. The men who are stronger physically would go into the well and pick up bindis or those pots of water and pass it up. Then a horizontal line of women would pass on the pots to water the plants, and then a line of all the elderly people would pass back the empty pots. In order to make it interesting, Swami said that there is a competition between men and women. When the filled pot comes, if there is no woman's hand ready to receive that pot, then the men win. When an empty pot comes, if a filled pot is not ready, then the women win. And Swami would keep this competition, and when this competition would happen, at the end, whether the men would win some days, the women would win some days, and Swami would materialize a bunch of talismans or toffees or anything and give it to them as a gift. One day Swami said, I am happy with all of you, so one special photograph. And those days taking a photograph was a big affair.
Right.
So Swami called and said, everybody sit around, made plans. The bindi also should be there so that people make out
the reference.
The reference. This is for the bindi pass or the pot passing competition. And Swami himself put a pot and sat on the pot. It took almost half an hour to do all those arrangements, and Professor Kasturi writes that he was given the task of taking the photo. And so he took the photographs. Unfortunately, at the end, when they actually developed the negative, they found that Professor Kasturi writes, I don't know where I bungled up, whether I pressed the wrong button or I didn't load the film properly, but the photographs did not come at all. And then Professor Kasturi writes, to his great surprise, none of the people were disappointed, and he writes, because they were so happy with the process in which the photograph was arranged that their joy was complete. It didn't matter whether the photo came or not. And through this, Professor Kasturi writes that Swami teaches us that the process of action is more joyful than the result. Result doesn't matter. When you have done the action perfectly, the process of action itself will give you fulfillment and joy.
Right.
And that is what it says, that if you are able to focus on the process and not on the result, your action will become more towards perfect karma, and that is what was lacking in all the examples that we read before. But when we say this, Prem, the question arises that if I do good actions, I am self-motivated and I don't bother about results, I leave it to God. Is that enough? Is that perfect karma? Will I be free of karmic consequence?
That's the question, because when you say good karma will beget good consequences, bad karma will beget bad consequences, whatever we have described can still come in good karma, right? It's the best way of doing karma. Do your duty, do it well, do it without bothering about the result. So this is the best way to do karma, but then it will still have results. In fact, there's a very beautiful episode which one of our teachers had narrated once. It was in Trai Vrindavan. Most of our listeners would know about the setup in Trai Vrindavan. Very beautiful, a very close interaction with Swami. That was an opportunity we would get during those sessions. So Swami was talking about karma. Probably Swami even sang that Padyam that we heard last time. Because Swami was saying that, see, this is karma, it is infallible. Whatever you do, small, big, knowingly, unknowingly, everything is recorded, good, bad, good for good, bad for bad, Swami was saying. So there was this one boy in the audience, one of Swami's students, who had a very melancholic face and in fact a confused look on his face. And Swami looked at him and Swami said, Entra, what are you looking like that for? Is there any problem? Do you have any question? He said, yes, Swami, I have one question. Cheppo adugu, Swami said, ask me. So he said, Swami, whatever bad, even the smallest bad, it will come back to me. Swami said, yes, it will come back to you. Swami, even good will come back like that? Swami said, yes. Then he said, Swami, for all my life, if I am going to do good, then I will have to come back again to enjoy the good? Swami said, yes, you have to come back again to enjoy the good. But then he said, Swami, then what is the point? Doing good also I am going to get bound, doing bad also I am going to get bound. So what is the way out? Swami said, yes, good also will bind, bad also will bind. The only way out is to give up doership. Swami very clearly said, unless and until you give up doership, you will not be able to come out of this cycle. In fact, going back to that bow and arrow analogy that we've been giving, what did we say? That when you shoot an arrow, whether it is the arrow in your hand or it is an arrow that has already been shot, if it hits the target, it is going to come back to your quiver. Consequences will come back to you. Now, what is that target? That target is ego. So, as long as your actions are motivated or directed towards ego, which means Swami would say kartritva or bhoktritva. Kartritva is doership. I am doing it, you will have to enjoy it. I am shooting it, I am doing this action because I want to enjoy it, then there is doership. So this kartritva and bhoktritva is both together. So whatever is shot at that target will have to come back. The only way out, as Swami says, is if you are able to in some manner remove that target and then the arrow does not have anywhere to hit, then even the arrows in your quiver do not have a place to hit, right? Even if you are going to load that arrow in the quiver, there is nowhere it is going to hit because you have removed the target.
Beautiful. I mean, that is, I think, the conclusion we are moving towards, that apart from doing action perfectly, apart from focusing only on the action and not the result, finally give up doership as well. Don't feel I did it. If the minute I did it comes in, then I have to enjoy the fruits or the negative, as Brother Prem beautifully put it. In fact, in his discourse on the 29th of April 1997, which Swami delivered in Kodaikanal, Swami says, how do you ensure that you are not bound by your good and bad actions? In fact, we had referred to it last week, wherein tamasic karma is an iron chain,
Right.
rajasic karma is a silver chain, and sattvic karma is a golden chain. But
Chain
all are
nevertheless.
chains. Chains, nevertheless, they bind you. Swami said, if you want to escape the chain, Swami said, you have to either grow so big that you break the chain, or Swami said, you should become so small that the chains slip off and you escape. And then Swami said, growing big means Shivoham or Soham, where you realize that Advaitic principle, the Jnana Marga, I am divine, I am God. Through the process of Shivoham or Soham, you grow so big because you become the Lord, you become Mahato Mahiyan, bigger than the biggest. The chains just shatter. Else, Swami said, I think this is the easier one because that is what we both felt. The easier one, Swami said, through bhakti, through devotion, make yourself small. Say, Dasoham, I am just the small, I am just a servant of my Lord. I am nothing, my Lord is everything, my Swami is everything. Swami said, when you say Dasoham and become like that, I am nothing, my Lord is everything, you become so small that the chains automatically fall away. In fact, this was even told to one of our teachers whom I referred to before, Professor Bhagya. Swami told him so beautifully, playing on his name. See, that is the thing. Swami, while giving the message also, the poet in Swami is seen. Swami said, Bhagya, your name Bhagya. What does it mean? It means that you should do your karmas, your actions, your actions should flow like a river between the two banks of Bha and Gya. What is Bha and Gya? Bhakti and Jnana. Swami said, perform all your actions. Let the river of karma flow between the banks of Bhakti and Jnana, and that is done. So, that is the thing. And out of Soham and Dasoham, definitely it looks like Bhakti Marga is easier. To surrender to the Lord is easier. To love God is so easy. And in fact, if you look at all the great Jnanis, Adi Shankaracharya himself, they have also practiced Bhakti Marga. We have seen Adi Shankaracharya composing so many Shatakams, Ashtakams and Stotrams and songs, the Bhajagovindam itself. So, definitely for ordinary people like us, Dasoham or becoming a devotee of the Lord, having Bhakti, loving God intensely, no matter what, let us love for Him, let us yearn for Him. And that, Swami himself, I think, said it in a beautiful Padyam. In fact, last week we played a Padyam where Swami says that the Kantamala, that is the necklace of karmas, is there, it's inevitable, you can't do anything, you can't escape from it. In that same discourse a little later, Swami says this beautiful Padyam. It's a very short Padyam, but its meaning is so beautiful and it covers our entire life. We will play that Padyam now and listen to it in Swami's own divine voice.
అద్దమందున ప్రతిబింబమంటనటుల తామరాకులు నీటిచే తడుపనటుల అద్దమందున ప్రతిబింబమంటునటుల తామరాకులు నీటిచే తడుపనటుల పాపములు అంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన పాపములంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన పాపములు అంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన అంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన
Isn't that a wonderful padyam, dear listeners? And as Arvind was saying, Swami only gave us the prognosis of the problem, and then Swami himself is giving the solution. And as Swami said there, when there is devotion in the heart, then sins don't stick. As we've been seeing, the problem is there is karma and there is consequence, and we are trying to break that cycle. Two links, and they are going on and on. So what Swami is saying is, bring devotion between karma and the consequences of karma. And how do you do that? As Professor Venkatraman would teach us again in our awareness classes, he would give it in the form of something referred to as a PN cycle. Because PN cycle is a concept in science, I think. But the way he would say it is, P stands for prasadam and N stands for naivedyam. When you are performing an action, make it your offering to God.
Naivedyam.
That is naivedyam. And whatever results come, accept it as prasadam. So there is an action, there is a consequence, you are bringing God in between, and you are saying whatever I am doing is an offering. Whatever results come, good or bad, becomes your prasadam. And in fact, this is what in Vedanta is referred to as Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi. And very critical for Karma Yoga, what this does. If I am going to offer my actions to Swami, that Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam that we spoke about, excellence in action, that now takes a different color. See, not only I should be perfect in my action, that action should be performed in a manner that Swami would like, which means I should do it lovingly, I should do it with unity, I should not be hurting somebody, I should not be harming somebody in the name of being absolutely perfect. I cannot hurt others' feelings. That also gets into this idea of Karmasu Kaushalam. And then when you talk about prasadam, as we would say, we all have our favorite sweets. Some of us like laddu, some of us like, some of us like even hots more than sweets.
Correct.
But when you're sitting in mandir, when Swami gives you something with his own hands, whatever it is acceptable. Like
you don't check for taste.
Right, you don't check for taste. In fact, vibhuti, there are stories of Swami giving vibhuti which is black in color, which is bitter, which is extremely pungent. Because once it comes from Swami's hand, it is acceptable. And when that attitude comes, Swami says the third quality of Karma Yoga, Samatvam Yoga Muchyate. Equanimity is said to be yoga. Because whatever comes is now acceptable to you. And the other thing that happens is, what you're doing is an offering, what you receive is a prasadam, which means even my present becomes prasadam.
Correct.
Whatever I am in life right now, be it in my role in the family or my role in the society, that also becomes prasadam, and whatever I am doing is only dispensing of a role that Swami has given me. And as Krishna told Arjuna, you have the feeling that you are only an instrument. Nimitta matram bhava, he said. Just be an instrument. You have been put there, you are only a trustee. You are only an instrument. I am not doing anything. Automatically doership goes. This child has been given to me for me to take care of. I will take care of that as my offering to Swami. So automatically everything falls in line and Karma Yoga becomes so real.
Beautiful. In fact, not only does when the doership goes, there is no problem of attachment. I know that I'm just an instrument in the hands of the Lord. It reminds me of another beautiful episode that happened in the early 1980s when Swami had started the Grama Seva. Swami would speak to the students and ask them how was the day's proceedings. Then one day Swami said, "Did you meet Radhamma?" And the students were wondering, who is Radhamma? Swami said, the one who fed you ragi mudda and buttermilk. They said, oh yes, Swami. They all remembered Radhamma. I think whoever feeds you, you remember. So they remembered Radhamma. Then Swami said, you know what Radhamma is? What is her profession? Then nobody knew what she is, what she does. Swami said she is a midwife. A lady who assists in deliveries in the villages because there are no doctors there, She's a midwife. And then Swami said, you know something? She is the best midwife in the world. And the students were like, wow. Swami said, why do you think she is the best midwife in the world? Again the students had no answer. And Swami said, every time before she has to do any delivery, she prays and tells Swaishwararpanamastu. I offer it to you, Swami. Swami, you come and take over. I am just an instrument. And then Swami said, when I take over, it has to be the best, right?
Very beautiful. So that is the attitude of offering to God, doing as an instrument, accepting whatever comes as prasadam. But when we talk about karma, there are two things. How do you perform your karma, and how do you accept the karma that comes? That prasadam buddhi that we are talking about, prasada buddhi, accepting whatever comes, that also becomes very important, because when you look at it, the reason why karma theory is actually gives a lot of solace is it gives some kind of a logic to whatever is happening, some method in the chaos, as they say, something that you can fall back upon. Because when there is purpose, we are ready to go through it. We all struggled through education, whether we liked it or not. But it had the idea that at the end of it, I'll benefit. That purpose gave a little bit of solace. You're going through a certain treatment. It's a painful treatment, let's say some radiation therapy, chemotherapy. There is pain in it, but you know that at the end of pain, there's going to be some benefit. So that gives you a sense of solace, and you're ready to undergo that pain. But when it comes to karma, karma is very complex. It's very difficult to say that this is what is happening, this is what I did, it is going off. So in devotion, what happens is, see, if purpose gives me solace, if reasoning and understanding gives me solace, either I should know why it is happening, or I relegate it to Swami. Swami, I don't understand why this is happening, but I am sure you know why it is happening, and I trust your decision. And automatically that peace comes into the mind, and that is one of the greatest gifts of a devotee, that how much ever the trouble the devotee goes through, the devotee knows, Swami, you know why I am going through this, that is enough for me.
That statement is so beautiful, Prem. Even as you say, I get tears in my eyes, because that has given strength to so many people. Every time that Swami is there, Swami knows it is for my good. In fact, I remember on one occasion, Brother Amay and myself, we were there in the West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago. And there we had gone to one Sai center called the Rio Claro Center. So we were just attending bhajans there. And we got to know that the center there, like centers across the world, it was a devotee's home that had been made into a center. And what was so beautiful was this devotee was living in a small space on the first floor. The entire large space of the ground floor had been made into a mandir. But at the end of the bhajan and the program and the satsang, we found out that the host or the devotee who is actually taking care of the center, they had not attended. And then the people said, please come and meet these people on the first floor. When we went there, it was a shocking sight. It was a mother who had just a couple of days before lost her twin children at childbirth. And all the devotees, not her, the other devotees were asking us, why is this happening to her? She has given everything to Swami. She is doing everything for Swami. Why did she lose her twins at childbirth? This lady actually spoke nothing. When we went to her presence, she was weeping and weeping and weeping, and they told us, tell her something. What do we tell? In fact, both of us got tears in our eyes, and we just said, Madam, sister, you know one thing, Swami loves you so much. Definitely. You have faith, right? Swami is God. Yes, she said. Swami loves you. God loves us the most. We don't know why this is happening, but know for sure that Swami knows. And Swami loves you, and Swami will definitely do whatever is best for you. So she asked, what do you want me to do? We said, talk to Swami, pray to Swami every day, take Vibhuti. And that was it. When we came back, we were talking, what else could we have told? What do we know of the pain of a mother losing a child? 1 year later, she sends an email saying that I have delivered a baby girl. Here is my princess and the name of the princess and everything. You know, this devotee, her name is Jai Shri Singh, because, you know, I am stating it for authenticity. So she said, this is the child. 1 more year later, she says, sends one more mail saying, I have been blessed with another baby daughter. And then she writes, she says, you know what, in these most troublesome times, Swami has been my strength. And then she wrote her whole story. She said, I had to go through 9 IVF treatments, fertility treatments. 9 times they failed. After that, she said, I had 2 miscarriages. And after that, finally, I delivered twins, and those twins died at childbirth. And she says, only Swami ensured that I don't go into depression. Only Swami ensured that I don't take any rash step. I held on to Swami. And now she is actually the mother of 3 children. She says, I have got 3 princesses. Life is so beautiful. I know Swami has finished whatever karma. And I am so grateful that while I had to finish this karma, I had Swami with me. You know, finishing our karma without Swami by the side is so difficult, but with Swami, it becomes so beautiful and easy. Because as Swami says, you know, there is this slide where we will be showing what Swami says on his discourse on the 23rd November 1964. Swami says, you might say that the karma of the previous birth has to be consumed in this birth, and that no amount of grace can save man from that. Evidently, someone has taught you to believe so. But I assure you, you need not suffer from karma like that. When a severe pain torments you, the doctor gives you a morphine injection and you do not feel the pain, though it is there in the body. Grace is like the morphine. The pain is not felt, though you go through it. And that is what happens when we have Swami by our side. The pain will be there, but the suffering won't be there. The karma will be gone through, but we will breeze through it because of the Lord's divine love.
And in fact, in the same discourse, Swami goes on to say, we'll just quickly read two more quotes which Swami says there. Swami says, grace takes away the malignity of the karma which you have to undergo. You know, there are dated drugs which are declared ineffective after a certain date. Well, the effect of karma is rendered null, though the account is there and has to be rendered. So very clearly Swami says that yes, karma is there, this theory is there, it has been created by God, it has not been made by somebody else. So it has to be followed, but when God's activity comes and when God steps into the life, He actively manages the way you go through this karma and He takes care. Because when you told about Sister Jayashree, the question that people might ask is, so Swami will be by our side and we have to suffer? No, that is not the case. When you surrender to Swami, as we said, karma is not a suffering and enjoyment process. It is a process of learning. So when you surrender to Swami, Swami tells you that I will tell you what has to be done. I will teach you what has to be learnt. Then even success becomes his responsibility, isn't it? And that is why Swami says in this last quote that we wanted to read, Swami says, it is wrong to say the lalata likitam, that is what is the fate written on the forehead, cannot be wiped out. That what one has earned in previous births must be consumed in this birth. Grace can countermand all that. Nothing can stand in this way. It is the grace of the Almighty. Remember that. This is again that discourse in 1964. How emphatically this is the grace of the Almighty. Nothing can stand in its way.
Absolutely. Whether it is Sanchita karma, Prarabdha karma or Agami karma, everything God can take care. He has a strategy for everything. Sanchita can be destroyed. Prarabdha, though it looks like destiny, we are stuck in it. Swami says that I can give you the morphine injection. I can make the medicine expire. But for that, we just need to love our Swami, offer our heart to Him, love Him more and more intensely every day. I mean, I feel that is the way we can realize we are growing. How much I love Swami today, tomorrow am I loving Him more? If I am not loving Him more than what I loved Him yesterday, then it's decline, it is decay, it is not expansion love. We love Him more and more. And let us realize that when we give the doership to Swami, what usually happens is we feel we are the doer and that's why we think God is a witness. But let us reverse the roles. Let us make God the doer and we are just witnesses. That is an effort we have to make. Because as Brother Prem beautifully gave an example, Swami will not take over on his own. We have to offer it to Him. We have to tell Swami that, Swami, you take over my life. We offer our life to you. Swami is waiting. But when we offer it like that, He will take over. When we give up doership, when we do enjoy action for the sake of action, because whatever we are doing it as an offering to Swami, and whatever result come, we take it as a prasadam from Swami. When we do this way, the arrow loses target. There is nowhere to hit. A time will come when all the arrows in the quiver are released as Agami karma and nothing comes back. The quiver is empty. We are one with the Lord. Life is beautiful, merger is also beautiful. On that note, dear listeners, dear viewers, we will conclude this satsang as Brother Prem said right in the beginning. We do not claim to comprehensively answer anything. In fact, not answer anything at all, because as Swami has said every time, Swami will answer each and every one from within. These are all satsangs wherein we imbibe positive thoughts and good words And finally, the answer, each one of us will get it from within. On that note, thank you all once again.
Brother and sisters, episode kali ini adalah akhir dari topik mengenai takdir. Saya sangat berharap kita semua mendapatkan pembelajaran dari episode kali ini. Setelah Anda menonton video ini, jangan lupa like, komen, dan subscribe. Terima kasih telah bergabung bersama saya. Sampai jumpa di episode selanjutnya. Jai Sai Ram.